Hello, everyone. This is Harmony, Divine Harmony, with the 2022 yearly forecast. This video, I will go over all the major things happening this upcoming year. I'm guessing it's going to be about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. We'll see. I'm also doing yearly horoscopes. That's membership content, and I'll include a link below. You can sign up to be a member. They will be up by January 1st, if not sooner, because I'm working on them as well. And yeah, we're heading into a really big year. So sit tight, get cozy, maybe have a journal. You can take some notes. I will include, when I post this video on my website, beneath the video, I will include all the data. So dates, no interpretation. The interpretation is the video. It's happening organically in the moment, but all the data with dates will be below the video. So you can just scroll down and peek and cut and paste if you want to keep a copy of the dates for your upcoming yearly calendar. So 2022, let's start with the tarot. So I've been studying the tarot pretty in depth for the last 8 years. And one of my favorite books for the tarot is this book by Rachel Pollack, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. She's got a lot of deep insight on the tarot. And what I share with you is going to come from both my studies of her text, but also my own journey with the cards. So every year people will say, what tarot card is it? And usually the way you do it is you add up all the digits of the year and bring them to the lowest number 21, 22 or 21 and below. Reason for that is there's 22 major arcana in the tarot, and then there's the minors. And 0 is the Fool, but sometimes 22 can be seen as the Fool as well, because that's the card in between the last card, 21, which is the World, and then the first card, number 1, the Magician. So 0 and 22 can both be seen as the Fool. So the first way we look at it is we add up 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2, that's 6. And so the card this year, one of the cards, the first layer of interpretation, is the Lover's card, because this is 6, if you can see up there. And the Lover's card, most people think it's all about relationship, which it can be, it is the Lovers after all. But each of us have an inner journey of inner union with our own masculine and feminine. Before any external relationships, there is the internal relationship between our inner feminine, inner masculine, and then the divine, represented by the angel here. This card is classically seen as a card of choice, needing to make a decision, but also crisis points where the decision that needs to be made is like a huge one. It's not just like, what do I want to eat for dinner? Or what do I want to wear? It's like life-defining decisions. And as you see this card representing 2022, that is a collective thing as well. It's like we are at a choice point this year. Where will we choose to go? We can go in this direction or that direction. And guess what? They're going to take us on 2 very different paths. So we've got this. This is also a card that can be about really understanding your own desires. Are you being run by lower desires in a way where you're not able to come from the higher self perspective to make decisions? One of the things I love about this card, and you'll see it in relationship with another card I'm about to show in a bit, this is the woman, the feminine, divine feminine. She's looking at the angel. This is the divine masculine. He's looking at her. She's the one that's always tuned in to the feminine. She actually needs to lead. Our inner feminine needs to be leading us. Yes, this is all about sacred marriage between the inner masculine and feminine, but the feminine needs to lead. It's the receptive part of us. It's the heart open part of us. The heart needs to lead. This is important when you think about decisions this year, small ones, larger ones, collective ones, and we'll be talking about that more as we get through this whole forecast. So this is the first card you can look at to understand the year, but we can also look at 20 and 22 as 2 cards. And remember, I said 2020, or sorry, 22 can be the Fool. Fool is 0. So we're never going to have a year where the Fool is the card, because nothing's ever going to add to 0 when you're adding up all the numbers in any given year. So when you make the Fool be 22, we can see the Fool card in the year. And actually we have 20, the 20th card in the majors is Judgment, and then 22. So we've got Judgment in the Fool as another undertone of the year. What I love about the Judgment card is it mirrors the Lover's card. Remember, there is a feminine and masculine figure. She's looking at the angel. He's looking at her. In the Judgment card, we see a trinity, masculine, feminine, and divine child. So now there's been this union and this birthing of something new. But notice she stands taller. The angels' rays of music and blessing are going on her outstretched arms. Again, she's the one that leads. She's the one that receives the blessing and then shares it. And so again, we have this image of the feminine really needing to lead. And I don't mean just women. I mean the feminine within all of us, the heart, compassion, being in the body, embodiment. You know, earth and water are the two feminine elements, and they relate to emotions and the physical experience, the body. And these are two really key things that are part of being human, and they are very important to honor. We do not want to be going up and out, trying to get out of the body, get out of emotions, which, by the way, AI, some forms of AI seem to think that that is evolution, to plant our consciousness into a robot, to choose your own emotions. There was some article last year sometime, this past year, sorry, I'm recording this in 2021, where they were doing these implants like the size of a little grain of rice. And it was something that was able to allow you to choose what emotion you wanted to feel and also allow you to not feel certain emotions. That is a complete dishonoring of the feminine. Our emotional body, our physical body are ways that we honor and embody the feminine. And it is important to not be trying to escape that. The Judgment card is also, this is a resurrection scene. Look, they're all coming up out of coffins. So we're being resurrected, but this is also a card about it is time to make a big change. And we've known about that change for a while. And now this is the moment of choice, which brings us back to the Lover's card. Now this is 20, this is 22. Remember, 0 or 22. So the Fool card is actually this kind of like 0-point void card. It can go anywhere in the deck. It naturally seems to fall in between the very last card of the majors, which is the World, which is not a card for this year, but I brought it out just so you can see it. So after the World and before the Magician, which is number 1, the Fool typically falls in that place. But you can actually also see the Fool falling anywhere. And Rachel Pollack specifically says it belongs anywhere where there's a difficult transition to be made. So again, we're seeing these images of a very big choice, a crisis point. The time has come to make a change. And then the Fool comes in and it's like, we are in transition. The Fool is, you know, wonder and innocence and ready to just leap into something new. It is a card of new beginnings, but the beginnings often come in because of endings and death of something from the past. So it's, you know, new beginnings are not always just happy-go-lucky because we are actually leaving something else behind. We had to make a choice in order to move into a new direction. And there's a whole process of letting go, particularly of things that we've held on to out of safety and security, that we have always done, that we've been told everybody always does. I mean, with the nature of the Uranus energy that's coming in this year, and which incidentally, the Fool card is the Uranus card, That is big. That is a huge theme for us this year. So we've got some big astrology coming in. Actually, another way of looking at this can be just looking at the 2, the 0, the 2, and the 2. And the 2 is the High Priestess. Actually, Rachel Pollack calls her the pillar of harmony because she's in between the black pillar and the white pillar, the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. And she holds the poles, the polar opposites, the paradox. She sits in between it. And she actually anchors the divine into the human, the sacred into the mundane. She is the chalice. And spirit comes through her, like my beautiful painting of the Egyptian goddess Neith, or actually Net in her actual Egyptian name. Neith is the Roman Greek name. So with the High Priestess, there is a need to withdraw. Like Rachel says, it's passive withdrawal to allow things to awaken. And it's definitely a card that says, pay attention to your intuition. Listen to your inner knowing, your feelings, your body, honor the feminine. So these are the cards that are governing this year. On the surface, it is the Lovers. On a deeper level, we can see Judgment in the Fool. And then on an even deeper level, we've got the High Priestess operating in the background. So this opens us up into talking about 2022. So I've got tons of notes here and we got a lot we're going to get through. So first, I just want to say that we have no outer planetary configurations this year. Last year, we had Pluto square Eris, and we also had it in 2020. We also had Saturn square Uranus. We also had Saturn sextile Chiron. There are no major aspects with any of the outer planets. Saturn, well, Saturn's a social planet, but including Saturn, there are Jupiter things, and we'll be talking about that. But there's no major Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto inter aspects. One aspect Saturn does make is he will link with Eris in June, a couple of days after the solstice, and we'll talk about that. But anyhow, it's almost like we're having this pause because it's been quite intense, right? This is not to say that there are not a lot of things going on this year, just to be clear, but we do get a little, like we get to pull back from these bigger outer planetary configurations and we get to regroup. We do have a lot of nodal aspects. We'll get to that in a moment. So the new year opens up in a dark moon, interestingly. The dark moon is on the 1st of January. The new moon is on January 2nd. I will have a lunar gate call up for the new moon and lunar horoscopes and a lunar insight, probably by the new moon, maybe the day before. I've got a lot going on this week with all the horoscopes and other things. But shortly after that, we actually have Venus conjunct the sun, and we have the inferior conjunction of Venus starting a brand new 1.5-year cycle of Venus. And what's so amazing about this Venus conjunction is both the sun and Venus sextile Neptune. And essentially January 5th through the 10th, we are 4th, I think I have 4th here. I thought it was the 5th. Venus sextiles Neptune on the 4th or 5th, because I might have written this wrong. Sun-Venus conjunction on the 8th, and then Sun sextile Neptune on the 10th. So this portal of 4 or 5 through 10, with the sun and Venus starting a brand new cycle, linking with Neptune, the higher heart, the planet of compassion and mysticism and spirituality and altruism. This is a beautiful time to be planting seeds and setting intentions about what you want to call in for the upcoming 1.5-year Venus cycle in relationships. Yes, it is Venus, but also in your values and how you align your deepest held values with the choices you make in life, relationally, professionally, and otherwise. In Capricorn, it's also a time to really be guided by your intuition when it comes to your work and your career and your life purpose. You know, Capricorn and Pisces, when you put them together, Capricorn is a very, strong, earthy, grounded sign, conventionally seen as focused on career and success. It is more occultly a very mystical sign. When the sun moves into Capricorn is when all these sons of God and sons of the goddess are born, and it initiates a brand new solar cycle at the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. And so there's a deeply mystical occult energy to Capricorn, but it tends to be hidden, you know, almost like if you know your tarot, the 10 of Pentacles, 10 of, I don't have it with me to show you, but in it, there's this scene of like a family and they have a lot of abundance, but you don't see this like hermit magical figure that's like hidden in plain sight unless you pay attention. And so there is a mystical energy, but it's not always overt. Whereas with Pisces, it's very overt. It's like in your face, mystical, spiritual, intuitive, psychic, magical. I mean, it's Pisces after all. So we start the year with this, and we're still in Venus retrograde through the whole month until January 29th when Venus stations direct. So we open the year still very much in a place of reevaluating our relationships, our values, how we relate to the material world, finances, our work, our career, our life purpose. So we actually enter into the new year in a very reflective space. Great time at the start of the new year and with the new moon and with the new Venus cycle. So literally January 1st through 8th. Great time to be very intentional about what you're calling in, what you're completing, what you're releasing in the form of baggage, you know, literally or metaphorically. So that's how we open up with the year. I have 2 blogs up about Venus retrograde. You can find them pinned to my website, divineharmony.com. I'll also try to remember to put them below this video so you can just click to it easy, but it is easy. Go to my website. It's right on the front page. Now, one of the major themes of this year is we have so much Uranus. Uranus, the rebel, the revolutionary, the great awakener. I have a blog up about him. I think it's pinned to the main page. If not, I will pin it. Let's make a note, pin. It's called Uranus and Taurus, a Revolution of Embodiment. Or maybe it's Embodiment Revolution. I always forget what I titled it. But anyhow, Uranus is the revolutionary and Taurus is the sign of embodiment. It's the sign of Venus, by the way. And this is about waking up in the body. This is about fully coming down and in. This is not about escaping the body, escaping emotions, escaping being here. This is about being here now, which is Ram Dass's quote. It's actually such a deeply feminine, divine feminine, honoring mantra to be here now, to not be or escaping into the future or stuck in the past, but to be in this present moment, fully alive, awake, embodied. That's the goal. That's actually the goal of enlightenment. Jung said, enlightenment is not about imagining figures of light, but of making the darkness conscious. And when you bring the light fully down and in, guess what it does? It illuminates all the places that are dark, that are stuck, that are repressed, that need healing. You know, enlightenment's not like, oh my God, you're lit up and now you're divine and everything's perfect and life is easy. It's actually a full awareness of everything, the light and the shadow, not light polarization. Anyhow, so we have so much Uranus. The year opens with Sun trine Uranus on January 1st, and then the new moon on the 2nd is trine Uranus. So we open the gateway with a ton of Uranus. We also will have Jupiter sextile Uranus, February 17th. I'm going to talk about Jupiter and Pisces in a little bit. We have Uranus on the North Node, July 26th. And actually Mars will co-join Uranus in the North Node August 1st. So late July into the 1st of August, we have massive activation of this Uranus principle with the nodes. And I'm going to talk about the nodes more, but Uranus is our destiny. And remember, Uranus is the Fool card. This is about making some, choice and walking off a cliff and knowing that there's going to be a soft landing. There's going to be a new beginning. The time has come. We can no longer wait. This makes me think a lot about the environment and climate change and what's going on the planet, because that's actually a piece of what Uranus and Taurus is going to be presencing for us. But there's actually many layers for this. So Uranus on the North Node, we have two major eclipses conjunct Uranus. We'll have a partial solar eclipse April 30th with Uranus at the midpoint degree at 15 Taurus. And then we will have a total lunar eclipse November 8th, conjunct Taurus or conjunct Uranus by 1 degree. I'm going to talk about the eclipses more in a bit, but just suffice it to say, if you're going to say one planet is dominating the year, it would be Uranus. And then we'll also add in Jupiter and Pisces in a bit. So with Uranus, the thing to be aware of with Uranus dominating is it is time for change. It is time to end an old way of relating to money and finances, to things in the material world, particularly if we do the shadow of Taurus, hoarding, holding on, not letting go, fears around safety and security. This is part of what is up for review and change. This is also about change in how we relate to the natural world. Do we relate to the natural world in a way of just taking and dominating and using up resources without an awareness of the long-term and actually short-term at this point consequences? These are things to be tuning into and to be questioning on a personal level, on a collective level. So Uranus dominates. We also have a lot going on with Taurus and Scorpio, and that's because the North Node of evolution and destiny is in Taurus. South Node of karma is in Scorpio. As of December 22nd, 2021, the mean nodes of the moon moved into these signs. The true nodes happen in January. When I look at forecasting, I always look at the mean nodes because they move evenly, whereas the true nodes go back and forth. They go retrograde and direct, and they're more chaotic. And so for forecasting, it's much better to just look at the mean nodes. For charts, I'll look at both. So we've got the North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. And I talked about this in the weekly forecast and in the monthly forecast. You can see what I wrote about there. But the North Node in Taurus, this is all about embodiment. This is about slowing down, stopping to smell the roses, to find some peace and harmony, to focus on beauty and balance. South Node in Scorpio is way more intense. This is the karma and the karmic patterns around everything having to be intense, all black and white, trauma and intense emotions and things that are unresolved in the shadow that are going to come up to be addressed. One of the ways I like looking at the Taurus Scorpio nodal axis, it's Taurus is form and Scorpio is transformation. So we take form and it is transformed, and that's what death is. And that's what any death we go through, whether it's literal or metaphoric, will take some aspect of form and change it. That's what death is, and then rebirth. And so we could see Taurus as full on fertile life. And we can see Scorpio as the death that leads to new life and transformation. But remember, the South Node is where we're stuck. So we can be stuck in this darker death consciousness. Everything's intense. Everything is, traumatic. And actually what we need to find in the midst of the intensity is these places that can be like cornerstones, touchstones for us to come down and in, to find the peace in the center amidst any storms outside of you. That's the ultimate spiritual practice, right? I mean, it's easy to go up to a mountain and be by yourself and find your center. But why don't you throw in all these, dynamics with family and intense situations with other people? What's going on in the world? Can you still maintain your center? Can you still stay heart-centered, even in the midst of intensity? So the eclipses are activating the nodes. All the eclipses this year are in Taurus Scorpio. We had the last Sagittarius eclipse, December 3rd of 2021, and we had the first of the Taurus eclipses. The eclipse was in Taurus. The North Node wasn't there yet, but the eclipse was in Taurus, November 19th. But now this year, all the eclipses are in Taurus and Scorpio with the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. We have a partial solar eclipse April 30th in Taurus, conjunct Uranus. We have a total lunar eclipse May 15th in Scorpio. And then the next set of eclipses are October, November. We have a partial solar eclipse October 25th at Scorpio, in Scorpio, and then the total lunar eclipse November 8th in Taurus, conjunct Uranus as well. So these are times where these themes I just brought up around Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node are going to be amplified. And I write lunar insights on all the new moons and full moons, and they're all public content. So I'll have lunar insights up for each of these eclipses. In the yearly horoscopes, I'll be talking about what the eclipses mean in the Taurus Scorpio parts of your chart. I also do lunar gate calls for all the new moons. So you'll have a lunar gate call for the solar eclipse April 30th and the solar eclipse October 25th. So those are membership content, and you can get information on my website, or I'll include a link below. So big eclipses. And one other thing I want to point out is Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Scorpio is ruled by Mars, ancient ruler, and Pluto, contemporary ruler. So we have the lower and higher will, power, drive, ruling the karmic South Node. Remember, the South Node is where we overdo things. Where are we coming from? Power over, power under, victim, tyrant, traumatic energy dynamics. And then where do we need to move into the Venus principle, which is relational, which is slowing down, being in the body, honoring, the body and the emotions, honoring the earth. Again, these are things to be working with in imagery and intention this year. Now we have a ton of nodal aspects this year. Notably, April 21st, Saturn squares the nodes. And on July 26th, Uranus is conjunct the North Node. So we have the Saturn-Uranus square that's officially done in terms of exact aspects. That was 2021. But we have the Saturn-Uranus square triggering the nodal axis. But Uranus is on the North Node. So the destiny energy is Uranus, change, revolution, rebellion, shift. Saturn is the old. Uranus is the new. Saturn is the past. Uranus is the future. Saturn is what we've always done and we just kind of stay with, and Uranus is what we haven't done. It's new. It's the Fool card and it's time for change. So this year is the year of moving into the Uranus direction. 2021 was the challenge between the two positions, like being between a rock and a hard place and just feeling the pressure of the past and where we're stuck in it, and the future and where it's calling us. 2022 is all about moving in to the Uranus destiny. So we also have other important nodal aspects. Pluto will trine the North Node February 11th. Eris will quincunx the South Node April 9th. So the Pluto-Eris square triggers the nodes. Pluto with the North Node is really helping us to embrace transformation, evolution, and change. Eris with the South Node can definitely bring up more unresolved shadow that needs to come to light to be dealt with. Jupiter and Neptune link with the nodes April 12th through 14th. And actually, that's the next thing I want to talk about, but we have some amazing Jupiter coming in, Jupiter, Neptune. I'm very Piscean and Neptunian. I'm super excited. We'll talk about that in a moment, but let's just suffice it to say April has some phenomenal astrology. Saturn, April 21st, which I said squares the nodes, Uranus, July 26th, with Mars triggering it a few days later, August 1st. So put like 5 stars around July 26th to August 1st. And wherever Taurus is in your chart, you're getting a massive activation of destiny, but also perhaps upheaval if you've been resisting change. And then Chiron will quincunx the South Node at the end of the year, November 19th. So again, more of the intensity of emotions and shadow and what's in the unconscious that needs to be brought to light. Now, lovely Jupiter in Pisces. At the start of the year, Jupiter's in Pisces. He entered back into Pisces actually tonight. I'm filming this on December 28th, but earlier in the day. So right now, Jupiter's still at 29 Aquarius. But Jupiter in Pisces, this is the sign of his rulership. He's very happy here. You know, Jupiter is naturally expansive and idealistic and positive. Put it in Pisces, and we're seeing the glasses half full. We're seeing potential. We're seeing other dimensions, and we're getting intuitive downloads and psychic openings. Pisces is connected to Neptune. Neptune is the contemporary ruler. Jupiter is the ancient ruler. And Neptune is the higher heart. So this is amazing for altruism and compassion and divine love, agape, unconditional love. There's a lot of beautiful energy with Jupiter and Pisces, but everything has a light and shadow. So we do need to be aware of spiritual bypassing, wanting everything to be coming from love and light. So we're avoiding and ignoring the shadow, turning to addictions to check out, because life is on, you know, overload. There's lots of changes coming at us and we can't deal. Be aware of that, but we do have some amazing Jupiter. Jupiter links with all the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in harmonious ways. So we've got access to higher wisdom, Uranus, higher love, Neptune, higher power, Pluto, and we can bring it through creatively, spiritually, intuitively, mystically. Pay attention to your dreams when Jupiter is in Pisces. My goodness, the messages coming in can be profound. We essentially have Jupiter in Pisces from the start of the year until May 10th, when he dips into Aries for a bit. And then he'll go back into Pisces October 27th until December 20th, the day before winter solstice. Interestingly, well, actually, so if you look at that, we've got like 4.5, 11, 12, 2, we've got like 6.5 to 7 months of Jupiter in Pisces. And then the other 5 months, it'll be in Aries. I'll talk about that in a moment. And then it'll be in Aries in some of 2023 as well. Last summer solstice, so summer solstice 2021, Jupiter actually had just dipped into Pisces sometime in, I thought I wrote it down, maybe not, in, I think it was May. Yes, it was May something, 11th, I think. Anyhow, and then he came to station retrograde on the solstice, and then he backtracked into Aquarius July 28th. And so we had a very powerful Jupiter at summer solstice 2021. We're going to have a very powerful Jupiter at winter solstice 2022, because we will have Jupiter cross into the first degree of Aries, moving from the omega point, last degree of Pisces, last degree of the whole zodiac, into the first degree of Aries, the alpha point. So moving from omega to alpha on the winter solstice, or actually the day before the winter solstice. And so the winter solstice sun is going to have a whole new Jupiter cycle through the signs happening. Like it's another major new beginning winter solstice. Kind of reminds me of the winter solstice of 2020 when we had that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. So we've got lovely Jupiter in Pisces. I'm excited. Jupiter in Aries, he will enter into Aries May 10th, and then he'll leave Aries October 27th, and then he'll officially be back in Aries December 20th. And Jupiter in Aries is quite different. You know, Pisces is watery and feminine and receptive and yin. Aries is the ultimate yang principle. It's the warrior, it's the activist, it's the one that's ready to go, you know, where Jupiter in Pisces opens to receive in a more passive way, like the High Priestess. You know, Jupiter in Aries is like raring to go, kind of like the Emperor card maybe, or the Chariot, even though Chariot is Cancer card. The energy of the Chariot is action and movement. So Jupiter in Aries will be a great time to initiate things, to start things, to embrace your fire, and not just, you know, open and receive, but do something with what you've received. And of course, where it is in your chart will inform, you know, how that plays out for you. Listen to the horoscopes. So now I want to talk about the amazing Jupiter Neptune. I'm actually so excited for this period of time. March to April is phenomenal with Jupiter and Neptune. We're essentially going to have the Sun conjunct Jupiter March 5th, Sun conjunct Neptune March 13th, kind of opening the gateway of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. The actual Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is April 12th. And we will actually have both of them trining the South Node in Scorpio and sextiling the North Node in Taurus the days right after. So Jupiter sextiles the North Node, actually the same day, sorry, April 12th, the same day as the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Neptune will link with the nodes 2 days later on the 14th. So we have Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter is the greater benefic. He is the planet of higher mind, beliefs, and attitudes. He's definitely a spiritual planet. Neptune is the higher heart and is also deeply spiritual and mystical. And they're going to cojoin in Pisces, the sign they both rule, and then they're going to link with the nodes of destiny and karma harmoniously. This is a phenomenal portal, spiritually, mystically, intuitively, psychically, creatively, compassionately, altruistically. It's an amazing time to be intentional with how you're using your time. Like, be on retreat, make sure you're meditating, make sure you're paying attention to your dreams, whatever comes in for you, be it a sacred site. I haven't made plans yet for what I'm going to be doing. I'll either find the sacred sites within or I'll be going somewhere, but we'll see. And then actually, you know, the whole of April, then Venus actually will get involved. So then we'll have Venus and Jupiter, the two benefics, and Venus and Neptune, the lower and higher heart. Venus will align with Neptune April 27th and Venus Jupiter April 30th. So truly the whole month of April is powerful, and it's going to start initiating in March as the sun begins to trigger Jupiter and Neptune. So pretty phenomenal. The equinox portal is in the midst of that. We have the equinox on March 20th, and actually the exact day of the equinox, we have Mercury conjunct Jupiter. And then Mercury will align with Neptune the 23rd and the nodes on the 24th. So the equinox portal is in the midst of this beautiful, mystical, Neptunian, Piscean energy. So pretty amazing. I'm excited. Saturn sextiles Eris only once on June 23rd. This is the only Eris major aspect with the major planets or social planets. You know, Eris, we have had a lot of Eris recently, and I have a masterclass on her. You can find it. I'll try to remember to put it in the link below, but you can find it pinned to my main page of my website. I actually have a few masterclasses available. The Aeris masterclass is all about Aeris, and it's a deep dive into Aeris, the archetype guiding the 21st century, including a guided meditation with her. I also have Anchoring the Age of Aquarius. The webinar is up and available on demand for this new age that we are in, and anchoring and embodying. And I am going to try to get the Sirius Masterclass up at the start of the year, so that'll be available for purchase. I taught that in September, and I've had a lot of people asking about it being available again. I just haven't had time. It's not just uploading, I have to like build out the classroom. Anyhow, I will try and get that up for the first of the year. So I do want to just mention briefly the equinoxes and solstices, just a few little, you know, choice words to share. And then of course, when we get to these portals, I'll have a lot more to talk about. But as I said, the spring equinox is huge. It's right in that Pisces portal. Interestingly, on both sides of the equinox, Venus and Mars will square Uranus. So again, we see this Uranus energy. They'll both be in Aquarius, the sign of Uranus, and they'll be square Uranus. And it's about change. It's about waking up. It's about shift. And of course, you know, the spring equinox is an energy of resurrection of the sun out of the dark of winter. And so that's a powerful portal. The summer solstice this year, Venus will be with the Pleiades at the summer solstice. And so there's a very strong Pleiadian energy to the solstice. You know, the seven sisters, deeply feminine, embodied kind of energy. Most of them are in Taurus. I think Alcyone now at this point is in Gemini, but most of it is still in the constellation of Taurus, which is where the North Node in Uranus is. So you can tune in to that kind of energy at the summer solstice. The fall equinox is on September 22nd. We have a Sun-Mercury conjunction with Mercury retrograde the exact day at the first degree of Libra, which can be very important for messages, realizations, information coming in as we head into the descent, the dark of the year. And then, of course, the winter solstice I spoke to, it's December 21st. Jupiter moves into Aries the day before, and the day of the solstice sun will square Jupiter at the Aries point. It's a big activation this coming winter solstice, and I'll have a lot more to say on that as we get closer to it. I do want to speak a little bit about the retrogrades, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and then I think there's like one other thing I want to mention. So we have 3 Mercury retrogrades, technically 4 actually. The 4th one will start at the very end of the year and then carry into next year, into 2023. So the first Mercury retrograde is January 14th, and we're actually in the front end shadow, I believe, on the start of the year. I'm actually just checking on my AstroGold app to make sure I'm not saying something incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure I am. By the way, anybody who doesn't use AstroGold, it's amazing. I use it daily. It is an app by SolarFire. I have a class, a 1-hour class on how to use it, because I would always tell my students, get AstroGold, and then they get it and they'd be like, how do I use this? So I taught a class on it if you have any interest. Yes, Mercury is already in the front end shadow at the start of the new year, and he stations retrograde on the 14th at 10 degrees, 20 minutes of Aquarius. He will station direct February 3rd at 24 degrees, 22 of Capricorn. So this is Mercury retrograde in Aquarius and Capricorn. And Mercury retrograde is a time to rethink, review, revise. In Aquarius and Capricorn, 2 Saturn ruled signs, and then 1 Uranus ruled sign. We are reviewing and revising the things we do, the changes we need to make, the communities we're a part of, the work we're doing. Is it aligned with our values? Does something need to change? Interestingly, Mercury will align with Pluto 3 times. We have one happening now, today or tomorrow, as I'm recording, the end of December. We have 2 more, January 28th and February 11th. And he actually stations retrograde close to a square to Uranus, but the exact square is not till February 24th. And he will align with Saturn March 2nd. And so we've got some big energies with this Mercury retrograde, particularly with Pluto. It's like excavating what's in the shadow. Great for therapy, and great for deep thinking and penetrating and research. But there can also be power struggles and, power over, power under dynamics. It can be, intense. The next one is retrograde May 10th, 4 degrees, 51 minutes at Gemini, direct June 3rd, 26 degrees, 5 minutes of Taurus. This one activates the Pleiades. And this is, heading into that solstice portal with Venus with the Pleiades. And almost all the aspects made are positive. So this is a great one to listen for new information coming in, downloads, new truths that might rock your world, but could do so in a very positive way, So really beautiful aspects with that one. The second one will be retrograde September 9th, 8 degrees, 55 minutes of Libra, and direct October 2nd, 24 degrees, 11 minutes of Virgo. And this one makes mostly harmonious aspects. It will quincunx Eris, which can bring in some, sudden, unexpected information. This is rethinking relationships and work and health. And it does oppose Jupiter 3 times. And so, Jupiter, he's seen as the benefic and positive. So it could be positive insights, realizations coming in that help you see what you need to do in relationships or in work situations or health matters. But Jupiter can also exacerbate. Jupiter is larger than life. And so he can overdo things. He doesn't have boundaries, doesn't want limits. And so Jupiter can be too much. And so just be aware of that. Really throughout the year with so much Jupiter. And then the last retrograde actually is December 29th. So a year from tomorrow, as I'm recording this on the 28th, it'll station retrograde 24-21 Capricorn and will do a double square to Eris in the last week of the year. December 26th, square Eris, stations retrograde the 29th, square Eris again on the 31st. And it's like, whoo, the year will be going out with a bang. So more on that as we get closer to all of that. Venus, I mentioned her already. She's, in her retrograde as we open up into the year. She stations direct January 29th. Her last trigger of the Pluto Eris square will be February 26th and March 3rd. And interestingly, she will be making 2 conjunctions to Mars. And the reason for this is she's still slow picking up speed. So Mars speeds up, cojoins her, but she's still slow picking up speed. Then she speeds up and passes him, and she'll align with him one more time. And it's really interesting to look at these 2 conjunctions. The first one is February 16th at 16 degrees, 53 minutes of Capricorn. Then she triggers the Pluto Eris square, February 26th to March 3rd. And then she comes out of that and they align again at the first degree, 0 degrees, 1 minute of Aquarius on March 5th. To me, what I'm seeing here is a massive new beginning starting in relationships, in our own relationship with the inner feminine and inner masculine. Remember, this is us. This is our inner union as well as any outer relationships. And we're moving from, Capricorn to Aquarius, from the old to the new age of Aquarius, the new paradigm that's coming in. And I just want to point back to these cards as a reminder that the way to the new age and to the new paradigm and to the new things being anchored is through the feminine. She is looking at the angel. He is looking at her. The angel, the music, the divine rays are coming down on her. She stands taller. She is sharing it with her divine child and her partner. The feminine needs to lead. And this is, again, maybe female leaders for sure, whatever. But this is the feminine principle within us. The feminine is yin and receptive and compassionate and embodied, honors the body as the temple, honors emotions as the communication that's coming from the soul. The shadow of the AI movement wants to disconnect us from our body and our emotions, and that is not the path to evolution and awakening at all. That's actually the choice. If you go down that path, that's going to separate you from the soul, from the feminine, kind of like that movie, The Golden Compass. Do you remember that movie? It's a kid's movie, although it didn't really feel like a kid's movie because it was kind of a little scary in some parts. But all the people have these daemons, D-A-I-M-O-N, not demons, but daemons. And it's like your totem animal that's connected to you and it holds your soul. And in the movie, there was this nasty person who was kidnapping children and separating their souls from them. And that is the shadow of the AI movement. Please be aware and be very tuned in and making conscious choices about the technology that you use in your life and how you use it for the betterment of humanity and embodiment and evolution, and not the technology that's actually going down the path of separation from the body, separation of the divine and the human, the sacred and the profane or the mundane. So these 2 Venus-Mars conjunctions are really interesting, and I'll have blogs up about them. Mars also will be retrograde end of the year. He stations retrograde October 30th at 25 degrees, 36 minutes of Gemini, very close to the anti-galactic center, the Silver Gate, the gate of man or the gate of the goddess. I talked about this recently in something. I think it was the blog I just wrote on the solar eclipse for December 3rd. So look it up on my website. I did a whole download on this. Anyhow, he stations direct November 12th in 2023 at 8 degrees, 7 minutes of Gemini. So Mars retrograde. So Mercury retrograde is the mind needing to slow down, rethink, review, revise. Venus retrograde is the heart. Slow down, reevaluate, look at relationships and values. Mars is the will and the drive and the ego and, you know, our energy. So we need to slow down that Mars principle and go back over the past and deal with things. Mars retrograde in Gemini can have us needing to really go back over what we've said, what we thought, the things that we thought we understood completely. It can be kind of an intense time for arguments. Mars is the warrior and he wants to battle, and Gemini is the sign of communication. Incidentally, the Gemini card is the Lover's card. So Mars and Gemini can, you know, possibly relate to issues in relationships. But notably, Mars will square Neptune 3 times. So October 11th, November 19th, and then March 14th of next year, 2023, we've got Mars retrograde square Neptune 3 times. And this can bring in more of that Neptune nebulousness, which has been with us for a while, especially 2020 and 2021, where not all is as it seems. And there's stuff going on backdoor. And if we're only looking at the surface, which can be shadow Gemini, you know, Gemini is very light and airy and kind of likes to flip from thing to thing, but doesn't ever necessarily stick with one thing to get deep and understand the roots of it. That's actually shadow side of Gemini. And so if we're too busy just kind of floating around and hearing an idea and thinking we've understood it, or hearing some information and thinking we see the whole picture, and we're missing this Neptune backdoor Neptune energy, we can deceive ourselves, delude ourselves. We can be easily deceived. And it's easy to spiritually bypass, check out, turn to addictions, to numb out, to only be looking at what's on the surface and be missing all the stuff that's happening backdoor. So that's really important to be aware of. There's a few other Mars Neptune activations in the year. May 17th, Mars will be conjunct Neptune. And I think that's the only other major Neptune trigger of Mars. Yeah. And then we've got the 3 October, November, and then into March of the new year. So we've got a big year. I do want to just presence that for anybody who lives in the United States of America, which I do. But even if you don't, it doesn't matter because we're all interconnected. The United States is having its Pluto return this year. And the portal for Pluto return takes us into 2024 with progressed Pluto. I did a whole panel with Astrology Hub on it. Hopefully you got to see it. And we need to understand that that is operating as well. You know, like in any relationship, there's me and my astrology, and then there's the mundane astrology, but there's also the other person and their astrology, and there's the country we live in and their astrology. So there's many layers of things that play out. And then our journey is understanding, you know, what is our personal stuff and what is the collective stuff, and what is our connection of personal to collective, to not just be so myopic that we're only seeing our own thing and we're not understanding how we're connected to the bigger picture, but also not to be so bigger picture that we're avoiding looking at our own personal stuff. So I have a whole article on the Pluto return of America. It's pinned to my website. I'll try and remember to put it in this, but it's on the main page, divineharmony.com. So yearly horoscopes, I'm recording them and they'll be up by January 1st, if not sooner. The lunar gate call will be up January 2nd. This is membership content. So you have to sign up to be a Galactic Benefactor member in order to access all the content, the gate calls, the horoscopes, everything. I will have new classes coming. I'm planning foundations for probably February, and astrology in your shadow for the 3rd time. Is it the 3rd time? No, the 4th time. How funny. The first astrology in your shadow was 2019. The second was the beginning of COVID, 2020. The 3rd was this year, 2021. And then we'll have a 4th one in 2022. I love this class. It helps you work with your chart to work with and integrate and heal the shadow. You know, the parts of us that are split off, that are unintegrated, as long as they're split off, they end up running the ship, you know, because we're not conscious of it. So it comes in. And so it's a great class for inner work and healing. And that'll be probably April. I'm guessing maybe around all this amazing astrology. I don't even know. I'm figuring out the exact dates. I'll have all dates up on my website, hopefully the first week of the year. I have a lot of other things coming in. I'm using this Venus retrograde to really restructure my work and career. And I'm really looking at the things I do that are like, oh, you know, full yes. And then looking at the things where I'm like, maybe it's time to let that go. And so I'm in this process of doing that. And I'll be making an announcement in the new year. I'm guessing probably after Venus stations direct, but I don't know. We'll see. So stay tuned. But this is a big year. And it'll be interesting to see all that unfolds. And I will be doing the horoscopes, and you can listen for your sun sign, your rising sign. And I hope to see you in the new year in classes, readings, along the path. Oh, one other thing, I do plan on offering a pilgrimage to Egypt pending what's happening on the world stage and travel and whatnot. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're on my newsletter list. I'll include a newsletter link to make sure you sign up. I will be announcing there first and also through social media. So that is the download for the year. It's got a lot coming in. And again, I just want to presence. It's time to make a choice. The time has come. No turning back. Are we ready to leap and let the net appear? The new reality is ready to anchor in, and it's up to each of us to make the choice. Blessings.